All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my swan song, and this is the cue for Brian Thompson and for me to start packing their bags and heading back. They have a show to do. Michael Schwer here on the Mark Thompson Show on Friday the 13th, which I think will be a lucky day for the Mark Thompson Show. Kim McAllister, Albert with me. We are, guys, going to be having a couple of interesting guests. Some of the ones you know already. Michael Snyder will be in later. I get, finally, to lead Florida Fabulous. Well, damn it.
Friday Fabulous Florida. We got it. We know you. We know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm going to be like Devondre Campbell with the 49ers. I'm just going to walk out of the game and say I'm not coming back in. We're going to be doing Friday Fabulous Florida. I'm going to be part of it, which is something that I usually just witness from the green room on this show. So I'm delighted to do that. We'll be talking politics with someone who does it for a living. We will do a pre-Christmas book list from someone who's got a book podcast. And that's going to be a lot of fun too. So stick with us. And as we do all week, and I want to on the December 21st, which is a Saturday, so you don't have work plans, presumably, you have to be here because it will be the Mark Thompson Show Christmas Spectacular here December 21st at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up for this at our PayPal with a $50 donation to lock up that spot. The PayPal is it's mtsmeetup@gmail.com, and just note meetup when you make that donation. It will be a great time. I will be here. All of your favorite Mark Thompson Show people will be here, and Mark won't be on a cruise, presumably. Maybe he'll have already gone on his next cruise. But for the moment, Mark Thompson, who visited us yesterday from off the coast of the island of Hispaniola, is due to be here at the party. So please make it a point to try and do that. It should be a lot of fun. We open the show, as we've done all week, talking about the story that has swept the nation, which is, of course, the assassination, killing, murder, whatever you want to call it, the killing of Brian Thompson, who's the CEO of United Healthcare, and the saga that has ensued regarding the person who is accused of having killed him, and that's Luigi Mangione. We'll start with one of the oddest stories about it to me today, which is that the Daily Beast reporting that Luigi Mangione will be cut from his grandmother's will.
Poor Luigi.
I don't think that's Luigi Mangione's biggest concern at this point. I just don't. I think he's probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life, and what he does with his money and where he's able to spend grandma's money is not going to be there. There is apparently a $30 million real estate fortune in his family, and there is a stipulation that the money not go to anybody who is in trouble with the law, apparently. So I don't see Luigi getting the money, but regardless, I don't see Luigi for the rest of his life having a need for that money. Now, there is an outpouring of sympathy for what he's done. There are circumstances that may mitigate the level of his culpability. We learned yesterday from David Katz, a friend of the show who comes in every week, like so many, that in fact, New York, it's second-degree murder in New York unless it's a capital offense or unless you kill a police officer. There was another. Do you guys remember what the other thing that would have made it rise to first degree in New York is? I don't at this moment, but in any case, it's second degree murder, and those charges will probably stay as they are, but his defense is probably going to put on a robust defense of temporary insanity or something like that, which could in fact get him out sooner than a lot of people want. Somebody writes in, he may get a from Trump. He's sympathetic to criminals. He is, but he's also sympathetic, it turns out, to the fact that he's sympathetic to big corporations and the people that lead them. So I don't think the party, the issue of pardoning is going to raise its head with Luigi Mangione. And I think that if we look at this story, Kim, there are going to be lots of days like this where there are stories about his past. There are little tidbits that make this case interesting. And it's, just give me the truth, right? And says a broken system has killed a lot more people than Luigi. And there's no question that you're right. Just give me the truth. But the real question is the law and order part of it, and do we adjudicate that down the barrel of the gun? And before, Kim, we talk about this, there is a report, and I want to find this, that the CEO of United Healthcare, the United Health Group, which is not United Healthcare, United Health Group is an umbrella company over that, is saying now, and I don't know if it was said before, said that America's health system is poorly designed. This is his first response to the outcry that is coming from the community over the fatal shooting of one of his top executives. United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty said Friday the U.S. healthcare system is, quote unquote, not perfect. Right. Well, we know that, and coverage decisions are not well understood. Well, that's where he starts making the excuses. But he says, we know the healthcare system does not work as well as it should, and we understand people's frustrations with it. No one would design a system like the one we have, and no one did. It's a patchwork built over decades. And he says, together with employers, governments, and others who pay for care, we need to improve how we explain what insurance covers and how decisions are made. So again, he's not saying that this is a wake-up call, and no one expected that he would. He makes his money, and his company makes its fortunes over the fact that that there is sometimes coverage and there is sometimes not, and that's the way insurance works. The argument is not that we need to fix the way insurance is and that Americans don't understand what's covered. What people are so upset about is that things aren't covered. With the exception of elective surgeries, like you're getting a nose job or something for a cosmetic, that's not what people are so upset about. And if that is how this message is getting to Whitty and the other CEOs of healthcare companies around the country, then they're missing the whole point of what these bullets said. And it's not that we need to improve how we explain what insurance covers and how decisions are made. It's that we need to live in a country where there aren't decisions made about who gets covered and who doesn't, and that healthcare should be a birthright, and the way that it is in so many other countries. And that's imperfect too, but it's certainly better than the way it's gone now. And the fact that the point's being missed is not at all surprising, but it's exactly why people why there's this divide, and why people are so sympathetic to the act of Mangione. Randy Bruling writes, and the head of UHC yesterday was talking about how they would work with anyone that wanted to fix the system. And he goes on to say, how about just not denying as many claims as UHC does and taking some action yourself? Now, it may turn out that in order, and I'm not a business major and I don't know all these things, that you can't be a profit-making or a big profit-making insurance company without denying claims. I get that, but that's not the point. Nobody cares about whether or not. There are people that believe that healthcare insurance companies should be a nonprofit. That's what these people need to hear. Cynthia Schwartz writes, don't you think the selfish, greedy, corrupt, white-collar criminal CEOs should be charged, convicted, and imprisoned? Why do the CEOs get away with this corruption? Well, I don't know about that, and I don't know how corrupt it is, because what Whitty is saying, and I'm sure there is, I just don't know, I mean that in the literal sense. What Whitty is saying, that this is our system, and we are playing by the rules that have been written, and we are abiding by them. And in order for us to make a profit, we have to adjudicate who is and who is not entitled, and what is and what is not entitled to coverage. It's obviously far more complicated than that. And again, I'm not an expert in the insurance field, but CEOs are in that business because they're good business people, and the business itself is what needs to be fixed, not the people that are perpetrating it, though they are protecting themselves and they are lobbying and they love the gravy train they're on. There's no question. I just don't know what is illegal about it. And the fact that sometimes when people are obeying the law, it means that the law needs to be changed. And if they are abiding by the system, it means the system has to be changed. So that's the only nuance difference that I make with what Cynthia wrote in. But I understand that certainly understand the point of what she said as well. So Kim, I just feel, and I'm not surprised by it, and maybe it's the right thing to happen. Like, these remarks from Andrew Witte are exactly what the public needs to hear reiterated, so that, just like what Mangione did in New York, it leads to some kind of change, because Witte totally misses the point of what people are complaining about.
It's interesting, though. Witte might just be opening his face because he's scared that that someone's going to come after him next, because there is no, except for fear of violence, really reason for him to want to change the system that is allowing him to scrape away billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars every year for the shareholders of United Health Group. I don't know, that when you have, and we even see it with Trump, who's putting, business over the consumers and business over the rights of the American people. Money is king, and people will do whatever they can to get it. And that seems to be top billing in America. And I don't know how we fix it. And I don't think one murder and the outpouring of the American public is going to change that.
No, I don't. And I agree. I don't think the murder is going to change that. I don't, but I do think, and it's inarguable, that the murder has caused a lot of people to talk about it, and that conversation won't end. And Witte is not about, I don't know him, but someone in his position, whoever that man or woman would be, would not be about nuance. They're about bottom line. They're about black and white. So he sees people being upset with the fact that United doesn't cover certain things. But people are deeply, much more deeply, and I think universally upset about the fact, and this isn't just me surmising this, I've spoken to so hundreds and hundreds of people around the country, so it becomes a bigger pool of people who are upset that this is the system we have. So yes, they're upset with the system, that the system that's in place doesn't cover people. But Andrew Witte is missing the whole point of the conversation if he thinks it's only because people don't understand what's covered and what isn't covered.
Right.
People are pissed off that things aren't covered, and people are pissed off at how much things cost because of the insurance company when they aren't covered, and they're pissed off at at having to mortgage houses, or get second mortgages, or sell, or go into foreclosure and bankruptcy over medical bills in this country. It's not because, yes, we'll cover that, but we'll only cover it to 80% because you went out of network. That's not what people are upset about that. That's both annoying and insulting when you pay a lot of money in insurance and it comes out of your paycheck. But that's not the thrust of this. The thrust of this is the whole damn thing is broken and needs to be fixed. And so these CEOs, it doesn't surprise me that they missed the point. I don't even criticize them for missing the point, because that's how they're built and that's how they're programmed and that's what they do for a living. But what deserves the criticism is the fact that that's the system that we have now.
What's interesting, though, and I kind of mentioned this the other day, is we talk about fixing the system, and every election cycle, that one of the top concerns of people is healthcare. And so we talk about healthcare, and then we never do anything about healthcare. We did get Obamacare, but we still have a broken system. So we have more people with insurance now, which is great, but it's still not quite right. And I think people, when the minute you start talking about switching to some type of system, Medicare for all, or something where everyone's covered, like a universal health program, people freak out. Oh, we can't do that. Look at how long it takes to get a doctor's appointment or surgery scheduled in the UK. Oh no. And they backpedal away from, socialized medicine. Well,
Right.
we're never going to be able to fix it if we just talk about the problem and never take action.
Right. That's exactly right. And things are incremental, especially in government, right? I mean, so Obamacare, obviously not the end all be all. You know, as you look at different social things that have even taken place, gay marriage was one of the most incredibly quick social change that happened in the course of its history, right? And so when you see that things are possible, then you get excited about them. But big changes that involve billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs, and not the elimination of an industry, but certainly the changing of an industry. It's why people don't understand why healthcare is the way it is, yet we can close factories and send those jobs overseas for a lot less money, right? I mean, that's making a bottom line decision. And they say that the defense for these healthcare companies that they very often use is, well, look at how many people we employ, and look at the industry that we bring into the states, and in the case of United Healthcare Minnesota. But it's not just about that, right? It's that they can do that on one day, and the next day they can close a factory and send jobs overseas and not care about the workers in their factory here. So that's just a nice thing to say that doesn't work. You're right, Kim. I mean, we do need these kinds of changes in healthcare, and it's always amazing how people get so riled up about it and so angry. Then they elect these people, say they're going to do it, and things don't happen. It's just
we get nothing.
It's just
in the rich tradition of the show, you get nothing, right?
You get nothing. And this is a segue, or well, I'm not going to segue because we're not leaving Luigi just yet. We're not leaving this conversation, but Donald Trump is now walking back, shocking to none, his campaign pledge. And I would say it was more than just a campaign pledge, because he'd been saying it for the 4 years he was out of office, that he was going to bring prices down, grocery prices down. And I have to tell you, this election will one day, and I promise you, and when they write about this last election, it will be the election about the price of eggs, because everyone out there, and I say that as symbolic of a lot of other things, everybody out there said how much it cost them to buy eggs and how much more it cost them to go to the grocery store. And it wasn't like that when Trump was president, but it's only been like that when Biden's president. That decided this. And now, before he even becomes president, he's saying, well, not so fast, I don't think. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So even in something like that, where he gets elected on that, and people get elected on guns, and people get elected on abortion, people get elected on things like healthcare, when it finally happens, the action isn't there. And it speaks to, I don't know who it was that we were speaking to earlier in the week about term limits. And I feel like somebody brought up term limits, and this does make an argument for term limits being okay, because you don't have to worry about running again. You can do the things that you were elected for. And
I feel like it's the first of many campaign promises to be broken, and people should be outraged.
Yeah.
If the whole point of voting for Trump for many people was that he's promising, and we believe him, that he's going to take down prices at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And before he even takes the Oval Office, he sits down and says, well, lowering prices is going to be pretty tough. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you should automatically be, what? This is the whole reason I voted for you, right? Not me, but those that did.
No, people who say that. Yeah. And we will get into that a little bit later. We'll talk about that specifically, and we'll talk about that with, we expect to have a member of Congress joining us on the show later. And when that happens, we'll talk about it as well. But sticking to healthcare a little bit, we talked about Andrew Whitty, who's the head of United Health. It turns out, too, that reportedly the company and United Healthcare is saying that Luigi Mangione was not ever insured by United Healthcare, or was uninsured at the time, certainly, and there's no record that he was ever insured by them. Now, that doesn't mean, in fact, that it could have been about a family member. We don't know enough. It could have been that he heard that this conference was going on, and he was going to make his point by, it didn't matter which healthcare agency, he wanted to say that this is all screwed and we need to fix that, and this is how I'm going to do it. So he could have targeted that company by accident, or he could have read that, he says in his manifesto or something that was picked up, he makes mention of the fact that it's the 5th largest corporation in America, which would make it the largest healthcare organization in America, and that could be why he targeted United Healthcare at that point. So I don't know. It really, we don't know. The fact that he wasn't covered by United Healthcare is not terribly important, but somewhat ironic, at least for the moment.
Yeah. One of the things about, since you brought Luigi back up, of his grandmother's will, and this I thought was really interesting. In her will, it says it's not only if you've been convicted of a crime, and she has 10 kids and 37 grandkids. So
Yeah.
I guess you have to think somebody somewhere is going to do something illegal.
Right.
But she said if you've been accused of a crime, you can be cut from the will.
That's interesting.
That's pretty harsh, because I mean, anyone can be accused of anything.
Yeah, and if you're one of the people in her will, you can accuse everybody else in the will of a crime, and then you get everything.
This sets up quite a scandalous TV show plot.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
It's
Mary
kind of
Mangione is her name, and her worth, she died a year ago, and I don't know if what's going on with the will, but I read that she's worth anywhere between, or was worth, 30 million to 100 million. They don't exactly know, but they have properties all over the place, nursing care homes, they've got vacation resorts, they've owned a radio station, so they have all of these things. She's probably worth, the will is probably worth a lot of money. So, and I don't know if it makes a difference if you're in prison for life that you would have access to money like that, but I would imagine that his parents will take care of him, even if he needs some money in the prison coffers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they will
prison account, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they will look at him as being sick, and I don't think somebody's going to come in and put $30 million on his books, right?
No.
But yeah, I mean, his family will presumably come to his aid in any way that they can, because that's what families do. And so I don't know how much money he would have gotten, how much he will get. But the point is, like, it's such a low on the list conversation, because my guess is he's not going to have a lot to spend on it. Though, if some of that money goes into a legal defense fund that would pay for his legal fees, then that becomes more compelling to him, I would guess, in some way. And I don't even know who's deceased and where the money is, if it's in trust or anything like that.
Right.
But there's more money talk is that you'll recall, Luigi may not be getting rich off of this, but neither yet is the person who turned him in. So there were the totals in reward money were $10,000 from the NYPD and $50,000 from the FBI. So that's $60,000 in finding him. And the tipster has not yet been identified, but the answer about whether or not they will get that money becomes now more complicated. So the NYPD and the FBI have stipulated the tips must lead to an arrest and conviction. The NYPD typically only requires an arrest and indictment, but the threshold is higher for rewards that go over $3,500, and this was $10K. So it's arrest and conviction. So you don't get the money until the guy's convicted. Mangione, was arrested, and even if it does happen, it's not guaranteed that any one individual will get the full 60, especially considering taxes and the possibility of the reward being split between multiple people. NYPD officials said more than 400 tips came in, with about 30 of them proving useful about the gunman's whereabouts. Here's what would need to happen for someone to get the reward. In order for it to happen, anyone who provides information will get a reference number. If that person's tip leads to an arrest, they will receive a reward up to $3,500. A New York Police Foundation committee conducts a case-by-case review to determine the exact amount. And the foundation has partnered with the NYPD to administer the program since 1983, and they've given out $3 million in approved rewards since then. Doesn't seem like a ton of money if you think, 41 years, $3 million. It doesn't seem that happens. Now, getting it from the FBI a little more complicated. That goes through something called Rewards for Justice, which is an interagency program administered by the State Department. And the individuals cannot initiate the process on their own. A U.S. investigating agency, in this case it would be the FBI, must nominate a person, which triggers a legal review of eligibility. So it's, you know, they're a long way from getting the 50,000 from the FBI or the 10K.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You get nothing.
Yes.
It's like they're taking a page out of the healthcare system, trying to get this reward money. You know, you got to.
Well, yeah, they are. You know,
you know,
it's true. You have to, but you may get denied, which is the ultimate irony here is that it may end up being denied. I also, now that you bring it up, Albert, I was thinking when Kim was telling us about the grandmother and how the family owns nursing homes and elder care places, and it made me think they're also part of the problem, right? I mean, they're in the same boat as the healthcare companies to a degree, and there's reason to say that you should have to pay more for different services for elder care, but there should be at least a bare minimum that's covered in this person's opinion. And
the irony there. That's weird, huh?
Making profits from it, which is incredible. I
saw a story that, and this is kind of, it's rich to call it a billboard, but there's this alleged billboard that you can see in Southern California that someone put up. And it is off of southbound 215 at La Cadena Drive entering Riverside. And it says, "Free Luigi Mangione, he's a hero," which makes me think of yesterday you called him, you said a lot of people are thinking of him as a folk hero. And so now we've got signs, Free Luigi signs popping up, on the sides of freeways all the way across the country. There it is. A billboard, it's kind of a handwritten billboard maybe, but you can see it from the freeway. Free Luigi Mangione. Wow.
Right. They couldn't put an apostrophe in?
No, they couldn't.
So, and that's going to happen. It's not just going to be on the 215 freeway in Los Angeles. It's going to be who feel that way about him, people who have been battered by our healthcare system and the insurance system. And I totally get it. And the argument is not whether they're right. Every single person is right. The person who wrote that, their sentiments are right, in my opinion. The question is, do you do that with a gun? And, I'm not there yet. But if it leads to massive change and a ton of good, and that maybe Brian Thompson's life is memorialized as the person whose death catalyzed a change in our healthcare system, then we can have a different conversation. But I probably won't be conversing when that happens.
Here's a question for you. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez yesterday, AOC, said something about the denial of care being an act of violence. We know the murder of Brian Thompson was an act of violence. But do you think it's the same thing to know that you're hastening someone's death by denying their claim, right? Because you are killing people. Saying they can't have treatments that doctors say they need is killing people, and killing them on a grand scale, because thousands and thousands of denials happen. We know with United Healthcare, what was the number? 33% of claims are denied. What's the difference between the legal denial of claim shit that AOC calls an act of violence versus an actual act of violence of offing someone on the street of New York with a gun and on the, splattering the body on the sidewalk?
Right. Here's the question. I don't know the answer to that. And but just the fact that we're wondering is all we need to know, because just the fact that we can equate the two means that there's a huge, massive problem in this country. Just the fact that we can say, oh, but the insurance companies do X, and this guy shot a man on the street and killed him, and we're not even sure if there's a difference. That means that there's a huge problem. So it doesn't matter what the answer to that question is. And AOC is right in that it's creating victims, certainly, right? Is it cold-blooded murder? It's cold-blooded and it leads to death. So can you tie those together? Probably. But it's the whole eye for an eye thing. It brings up so many conversations. But the truth of the matter is, the mere fact that we can even wonder and not dismiss what she said immediately means that there's a huge problem. So, yeah. But it's creating victims. And it's creating villains, and that's what Mangione to some is not a villain, but in the eyes of the law he is. So it's incredible that conversation can happen. All right. Well, we will leave Luigi to you and Mark and to Albert for next week and the months ahead, because he's not going to go away as a story, nor is this. We will. We have time to talk a little bit about. There's one Donald Trump piece. It's which I think is always interesting. We were talking about how Elon Musk is the richest man in history, crossing $400 billion. And then the access that these people get to politics. And then it's been learned now that Jeff Bezos, who is the head of Amazon, who is only worth a paltry $244 billion, merely over half.
What a loser.
I mean, how does he even go out? He is going to be giving $1 million to the Trump inaugural fund. And that would be similar to what Mark Zuckerberg, who's the head of Meta, formerly or incorporating Facebook, the founder of Facebook, said that he was going to give that money. And some people are saying, well, this is what wealthy people do when presidents need to be inaugurated. But the Trump administration has had a funny time in Silicon Valley, even though Silicon Valley is part of what elected him this time in a different way, part of what created J.D. Vance as his running mate. They still want to be kind to this administration, and $1 million each to the inaugural fund is pretty good. You'll recall Trump talks about Zuckerberg. He talks about Elon Musk. He talks about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, pulled the endorsement, or the Washington Post pulled the idea of endorsing, and it was presumed that it would endorse Vice President Harris. So they didn't endorse, and that caused a big mess as well. So Jeff Bezos is really trying to endear himself to the Trump administration. This is what money and having does in this country. And so, along with our healthcare system and how it is driven so much by money, we also see our politics in the same light.
Yeah. Your audio is breaking up a little bit, just to let you know. I'm not sure why.
I'm not either. Is it still
I
bad?
don't know. But it's
Okay.
funny because you mentioned Meta, and I have I love her posts. A friend of mine says that's it for me. I've been thinking about getting rid of Facebook for a while, and now that I know that Meta or Zuckerberg is kicking in $1 million to the Trump inauguration fund, I am out. I can't support this business anymore. I'm done. And I don't know if this is going to be part of some bigger movement, or if people really aren't going to use Amazon anymore because Bezos is also donating $1 million to the Trump inaugural committee or whatever it is. But
Right.
I don't know what it gets them except currying favor with Trump. And I guess maybe, there's a high premium for that when you're looking for favors from the Trump administration. They do, what is it, pay to play or pay for play, whatever. So maybe it will get them the things they need coming up.
No question. Yeah, and that's what happens. It has never not worked. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to, and I know it's not what you're supposed to do. There's one Luigi Mangione thing I forgot, which is this fantastic spoof from that I saw that somebody did online. And I know you're not supposed to go back to a story once you finish it.
No, do it.
In the business long enough, and by the way, it's my last day. What are they going to do? Fire me? So I want to run this. And Albert, can you tell me the person's name who created it? Because they should get all the credit in the world. It's on there. And I can
Yeah, I
look
think
at
the account is Nate Meeker.
Yeah, Nate
Yeah.
Meeker on Twitter, which we can still call Twitter because we're mad about everything. And let's look at what Nate Meeker did, and hopefully you've seen the movie Goodfellas, because I just thought this was so clever and funny.
We had a lot of tough crew members, but none tougher than Luigi Mangione. See, Luigi was a smart kid, one of those Ivy Leaguers. You'd never expect him to be a killer. I mean, Chappell Roan was his #1 artist on Spotify Wrapped, and he still played Pokemon at age 26. The guy was even a ladies' man. He had a system where he would DM every girl he met online instead of messaging them directly through the dating app. It was a very good system, but Paulie always warned me that this kid was a loose cannon. One day he completely lost it and whacked the United Healthcare CEO in broad daylight. Worst part was, the only reason he got caught is because he was flirting on camera with the receptionist. Poor bastard could never keep it in his pants. But that's just the way it was back then. We had a lot of tough crew.
I don't know. I just thought that was hysterical. I just thought it was so I wanted to give
the shoemaker, little Anthony. Yes,
exactly. I mean, I wanted to give Nate Meeker his due there because it was pretty funny. All right, so we have like I said, we have we're chock-a-block in the next hour. We have Friday Fabulous Florida coming up. Kim, why don't we do a little bit of news and then go into Florida? What do you think?
I like it. Let's do it. It's coming.
I know. Here we go.
There it is. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report with Michael Shore sitting in. And this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in lovely Livermore with all kinds of holiday deals. New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer wants the FBI and the FAA to disclose more information about recent drone activity in New Jersey. This is becoming quite the to-do. He says it is unacceptable for the federal agencies not to come forward in a more clear way. Thursday, the FBI and the White House both said the drones appear to be manned aircraft operating legally, and there's no evidence that the possible drone sightings are a threat to security or public safety. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is recovering from an injury. The 84-year-old California Democrat was hurt while in Europe. Pelosi was traveling with a bipartisan congressional delegation in Luxembourg to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. A statement from her spokesperson says the Congresswoman is receiving excellent care and treatment in Luxembourg in a hospital there and continues to work. The NYPD says it does not appear the suspect accused of the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was ever a client of that particular company. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joe Kenny telling NBC News Luigi Mangione may have targeted Brian Thompson because of the size of the insurance company. Kenny says Mangione did suffer a life-changing injury in July of 2023 and did post the x-rays of screws going into his spine, speculating that that may have put him on this path. The man found not guilty in the New York City deadly chokehold case will be Vice President-elect Vance's guest at Saturday's Army-Navy football game. A jury found Daniel Penny not guilty of negligent homicide after a manslaughter charge in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely had been dismissed. In a post on X, Vance said, "Daniel's a good guy, and New York's mob district attorney tried to ruin his life for having a backbone." Authorities are letting more than 3,000 Malibu residents return to their homes. Fire crews making progress on the Franklin fire now. The fire was 30% contained as of last night. It has burned more than 4,000 acres near the California coast. The fire broke out Monday in Malibu Canyon, fanned by the high Santa Ana winds. More than 1,700 firefighters were fighting this one. It has destroyed 6 homes. There's a woman who claims that she was raped by 3 members of the Duke University lacrosse team nearly 20 years ago. Not sure if you remember this story, but now the woman says she made the whole thing up. During a recent podcast interview, Crystal Mangum said she testified falsely against the students by saying that they attacked her in a bathroom during an off-campus party in 2006. Governor Roy Cooper, who was the state attorney general at the time, dismissed all the charges against the men for lack of evidence. Secretary of State Antony Blinken contends it is imperative that efforts continue to present a resurgence of ISIS in Syria, this following the fall of President Bashar al-Assad. He discussed the matter with his Turkish counterpart today. Following the meeting, Blinken said both countries share a broad agreement on what they'd like to see in Syria's interim government, including efforts to protect the right of women and to reject alliances with extremist groups. Wasn't this, Michael Schur, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the group that's taking over Syria on the terrorist watch list or deemed a terrorist organization? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry. I just think it's rich that now we're expecting this. Go ahead.
Right. Yes. And they were, and it's the people. And so, but again, they've claimed to have moderated, and they claim, that they shouldn't have been on that list in the first place. But, we'll have to see. They're going to get time, and there's nothing the United States can or wants to do about what is going on in Syria at the moment anyway. So you see where those chips fall. Netanyahu, who has to make a judgment about it, has already made his judgment, but the United States does not have the same urgency.
Well, I am not holding my breath that the rights of the women in Syria will be protected. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
The California Department of Motor Vehicles is recalling a personalized license plate mocking the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. The plate read LOL OCT7. It was recently spotted on a vehicle in an intersection in Culver City. Now the DMV is apologizing and saying the personalized license plate should have been rejected in its review process. Meta launching a tool that puts a watermark on artificial intelligence generated video. SumSub affixes an imperceptible watermark to video clips to protect originality and guard against deep fakes. Those deep fake videos have increased fourfold in just 1 year. And a Waymo robotaxi got stuck in a roundabout. We knew it was going to happen sooner or later. A video of the driverless vehicle with 2 passengers in the back going around and around and around in an endless loop has gone viral on social media. Waymo says it's aware of the issue and is deploying software updates. I mean, how do you even get out of that? You're stuck in there, and it's just going around the roundabout forever. And lastly,
I'm bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've apologized to the Waymo community. If you're feeling lucky, the Mega Millions jackpot is now at 700 mil. So, is it ready to pop? It seems like it's getting close. Lottery officials say an estimated $695 million is up for grabs in tonight's Friday the 13th drawing. If you were to win it, the cash option works out to a lump sum payout of $322 million. The last Mega Millions jackpot won on a Friday the 13th was in January of 2023, when someone in Maine walked away with a $1.3 billion prize. So Friday the 13th, there might be some luck there. I don't know. There's something to it.
Yeah, no, it's worth it. And 6 of those dollars are mine because I've lost those, over the past few weeks.
Well, who knows? Maybe you'll get it all back, Michael Schur. Maybe. The report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. So pretty out there. They have so many different wines available for tasting. They also have beer on tap in the tasting room in case you want to bring a beer drinker along for the ride. And it is the home of the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red? And the Mark Thompson hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio? So they have some great wines at Tenuta Vineyards. They are so friendly. They say, give us 30 minutes, we'll be friends for life. And it's true. Everyone that we know that has gone out to the winery for a tasting walks away feeling like they just had the best experience. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore, they have all kinds of deals. As a matter of fact, if you use the so-called phrase that pays, which is smash it with your iron rod, you'll get
with your iron rod.
Thank you very much. You'll get a 10% discount at Tenuta Vineyards. So the website is tenutawinery.com, I believe. And you can check out all the different wines there. And then you can either email or call Rich out at the winery. 925-699-4576 is the phone number, or Rich at tenutavineyard.com. Say smash it, or type smash it with your iron rod, and it'll give you a discount. As a matter of fact, I think the discount was 10% off across the board, but if you order a case, he was giving you even more of a percentage off. So check it out, Tenuta Vineyards, tenutawinery.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show with Michael Short.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I've never gotten to do this, so I'm very excited about this. It is now time, I believe, for Florida. Wow, damn it. Let's try that again. We'll do take two. It is now time, I believe, for Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
So, I will turn myself into the most excited person you've ever seen on streaming, because I get to do this, which I love doing now. But I will say that that there are three stories. We're going to have to get through them, or four stories. We're going to have to get through them quickly because we have a guest coming up. So we're going to start with this one. A Florida man uses a Molotov cocktail sword to make a point about disrespecting a family member. And this Florida man, and this is great, because when you see how these build, and you see how the compiling of these stories, the work that goes into this segment is fantastic. A Florida man wound up behind bars after police say he pulled out a Molotov cocktail and a sword and threatened someone he felt disrespected, a relative. Police in Cape Coral said they found the victim outside his home shortly after 2 a.m. The victim said Luis Vargas Izquierdo threatened him while holding a glass bottle with a cloth wrapped around its top, claiming it was a Molotov cocktail. He added that Vargas Izquierdo threatened to throw it at one of the vehicles in the driveway and light it on fire. The incident was captured on video by a Ring doorbell camera, and Vargas Izquierdo, who was found near his home, claimed he went to the victim's home to send a message about disrespect to a family member. He was charged with arson firebomb. If you're going to be charged with something, that's a pretty cool charge.
I didn't even know that was a charge. That's awesome.
Arson firebomb, which is a third-degree felony. So you're not even giving up that much. So, if you're looking for a felony. So that is our first story. The man with the sword.
Can I just say about Luis Vargas Izquierdo? It's not that I'm going to be writing letters to him in prison, but that he's a fairly good-looking guy. For the first time, I'm going to go ahead and give the mugshot a 10.
Oh, really? Wow. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess pretty good-looking. But, Luigi has brought up the good-looking mugshot.
He's raised the bar, yeah.
Now, so this one is a Florida man battles flesh-eating bacteria after hurricane flooding. I don't know. I mean, this is Florida because there's hurricane flooding, but it's also terribly sad. Mark Lipko, a Florida man, is recovering in the hospital after contracting a rare flesh-eating bacterial infection through a small cut while working near lakes following recent hurricanes. He's and so basically these are the kinds of things that happen in Florida, obviously, is you work near a lake near a hurricane. His wife, Karen Lipko, recounted how doctors discovered the bacteria had spread rapidly, attacking his soft tissue, requiring multiple surgeries, including the placement of a colostomy bag. You can pick this up anywhere, but we think it was some standing water somewhere on the lake he was at, and maybe he got it during an abrasion. So that's not a terribly good story. But there's a little bit of it could happen anywhere, but and there's no mugshot. So I'm not an early supporter of that one. But we have a mugshot here because this next story, a Florida woman is accused of threatening insurance companies, saying delay, denied, depose. This is, what has been wrought by Luigi Mangione. In Lakeland, a Florida woman who is accused of ending a call to an company with the 3 words delay, deny, depose was charged Tuesday. So those are the words that were inscribed or etched into the bullet casings that killed Brian Thompson, that were put there by whoever the shooter was. This one, we think that it's Mr. Mangione, and so it's so I guess she finished a call saying that Brianna Boston had reportedly placed a call to Blue Cross Blue Shield regarding recent medical insurance. Near the end of the call, investigators said Boston could be heard saying delay, deny, depose. You people are next. There you also see blue-eyed mugshot. The words Boston allegedly used are similar, as we said. The affidavit noted the similarities between the phrases used in adding those words became nationally recognized as a phrase directed against insurance companies. Police contacted Boston at her home in Lakeland, where she reportedly admitted to using those words, telling detectives that healthcare companies played games and they deserve karma. And based on Boston statements, investigators said they believe she meant to threaten the insurance company, and thus she was charged with threats to conduct a mass shooting. A judge set her bond for saying this at $100,000, stating, "I do find that the bond of $100,000 is appropriate considering the status of our country at this point."
Wow.
That's he's the Florida man, right?
Yeah.
And now this is a good one, but I'll let you decide how good it is. This is a Florida woman who flew to Australia for clown school was jailed over a 24-karat gold pistol. So she flew to Australia for clown school.
Okay.
And you can see Lillian Goodson arriving down in.
She looks like an angry clown.
Yeah, that's not a clown that I would have been if you're terrified of clowns already. There's that one. An American who arrived in Australia to attend clown school with a gold-plated pistol in her luggage has been jailed for a year. Liliana Goodson, a 30-year-old American woman, pleaded not guilty to charges of illegally imported firearm and ammunition in contravention of Australia's strict gun laws.
Guilty. She pleaded guilty.
Yeah. Did I say not guilty? No, she pleaded guilty.
You said not guilty, but yeah, she pleaded guilty. Sorry if I misheard it. Yeah. 12
months in jail. Yeah, I would have fought that. So she's a Florida one for choosing not to fight it. The court previously heard that Goodson had arrived in the country from Florida to attend a clown school. I mean, things you can't make up. She claims
it's not all good times at clown school, Michael Shore, you know?
And one of, I believe, the greatest circus schools in our country, and it may be the only, is in Sarasota, Florida. I just remember that as a piece of trivia. And why leave Florida to be a clown? Anyway, police later discovered she searched online for the answer to the question, "Can I have a gun in my suitcase?" Later said she brought the gun into the country as protection, even though she was scared to shoot it, would more likely pistol whip anyone who attacked her. Well, that's she had, however, declared that she was carrying a cat's spine, squirrel feet, and rabbit urine. It is unclear why she traveled with those items. So those three facts. You know, if you're looking for who's winning today, right? I mean, she speeds to the lead with those in my book. So, what is then? Do we say the Florida-iest story? Where do we go from here? Now we each get to weigh in, right? And then
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So currently in the polls, the Molotov cocktail swordsman is leading in the polls with 40% of the vote, but
yeah, I think we need to count some late returning ballots now that we know about squirrel's feet, rabbit spine, and cat urine, right?
I mean, that sounds more like she's going to witch school or something, not clown school.
Yes. Yeah, already with Karen Cooper, I voted but want to rescind it for the clown woman. The last facts were the best. Exactly. I knew that was going to happen. Now we're going to have people saying that we, stop the steal. People who supported arson firebomb. But I say we're allowed to let people cure their ballots in this case. Yeah.
If only that were the way the American system worked. I have to say, I loved the mugshot of our Molotov cocktail fellow, but I think I'm going to have to go with Angry Clown, because that picture of her, it's possible, although I have no proof of this, that they denied her entry to the Sarasota Clown School because she looked a little rough around the edges. But I think, I think that the clown lady has got the winning vote in my book.
I would definitely say so. And it turns out that the man with the flesh has endorsed the clown ladies. So we're down to 3 candidates. Yeah, and so I think, are we able to call this race yet, or are we?
Well, yeah, I think we've influenced the vote enough that the clowning down under is what I titled it, is in the lead, 36%.
Yeah.
What's your personal vote, Albert?
I like the swordsman. It's just a classic Florida band Mad Libs, just Molotov cocktail and a sword involved. So
I see why people like it. I definitely do, because there's, I mean, also the charge of the 30 felony of arson firebomb is appealing. But I just, she just finished stronger. That's all.
I think so. I think so.
Like, if it was just a gun and what she looked like, all right, I could see the arson firebomb. But then when you hear about all those other things, forget it. We're all done. And so today we have a winner, and that is exciting for my first Friday Fabulous Florida, and I got it right.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Yeah, fantastic. So Peter Newton with a $5 super chat. Commish, did you know the University of Florida mascot gator is named Albert? How about that, Albert? Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's news to me. I was a huge Tebow fan when that was happening down in Florida, so I'm very disappointed that I didn't know that.
You never knew it. And then we have another $5 super chat donation from Louise. She's from Florida, and a clown sounds like a Trump appointee for sure. So she may drop out because of her ethics charges that have come in. So we may not have that. And Albert, I know we're waiting on a guest. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Steve is standing by.
Oh, he is. Okay. So let's get right to it. We'll do our 47 seconds of sports after that. We can talk about the 49ers game. We can talk a little about the Sharks, who had a nice night last night, for only 47 seconds. But first, let's bring in somebody who knows more about the stuff we're talking about than any of us do, and that is the representative from the 9th District of Tennessee. That's Steve Cohen. He's been in Congress for a long time on the Judiciary Committee. Congressman Cohen, how are you?
I'm good, but I don't know anything at all about what you were previously talking about. Those were 4 of the craziest unnecessary stories I've ever heard.
Well, Congressman, let me ask you beforehand. Just tilt your screen up again, and you won't. I'm gonna please you with this. Yeah, it's perfect. You won't have to do anything with Friday Fabulous Florida. That is all in the past now. Had I known you were there, I know you like to vote because you're a member of Congress. We would have had you vote on what is the most Florida of all those stories. But it
would have been the Matt Gaetz story, which is the one you didn't have in, which is competitive with the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. There's the winner. Fantastic. And Matt Gaetz' story actually just beat the woman who went to clown school with a gun in Australia and had tats all over her face, and then had, I guess it was a squirrel's foot and rat urine in her bag. So, well, Congressman, thanks for coming on. There's so much to talk about.
How did she get the rat urine?
Yeah, how did she get it? I don't know. I mean,
she's attached a catheter.
See, look who's more interested in that than he was in Matt Gaetz all of a sudden, right? So,
well, I have rats in my attic.
All right, you have rats in your. Well, maybe you can go to Australia to clown school when the Congress stuff's all done. All right, let's do.
You know what people have said when they left Congress? I think it was Fred Upton.
Yeah.
I won't miss the circus, but I will miss some of the clowns.
I believe that. I believe that. What should you ever decide that it's not time to go back to Congress? What is the thing that you will miss most about it? I mean, what is
the clowns?
Is it the clowns? Yeah, that's all of it, right? Yeah.
It's your colleagues.
Yeah.
It's your colleagues. There's some nice folks, and you get to know them, and they become your. They're like, you go to school. You have people you associate with, and you graduate from school. And as I've told my buddy John Yarmouth, if you compare Congress to school, I finished 18 years now, so I've basically gone the same amount of time in Congress as I did from first grade to 12th to college and to law school. That's a long time. But I'm going to graduate.
A long time.
I'm going to graduate law school.
Yeah, you graduated law school at some point. And going back to Congress, there's some years you want to go back to school after the summer, and there's some years you just want the summer to keep going. I can imagine that this is a time where going back to Congress for someone in the minority is a little frustrating. Tell us about that.
It's hard to get out of bed in the morning and realize you're going to Washington in the minority, and you will be there with Donald Trump and his changes from day to day. He changes his stories, he changes his perspective, he changes the facts, he changes his cabinet members, his staff. It's just it's a show. It's not a very good show, and they'll be doing things that'll change America. I think that Chris Wray's resigning rather than staying on, letting him be fired, is the first opportunity he has to have been an autocrat and to know that autocracy works, that his desires overrule the rule of law. And the rule of law is that Chris Wray had a 10-year term. Chris Wray resigned, or will resign, before the inauguration because Trump wants him to. So basically saying, you're the king, and I'm going to let you be the king and not require you to take the position of firing me and having whatever repercussions come from that.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're and the Pete Hegseth story where Joni Ernst, the senator from Iowa, said she was not inclined to support Pete Hegseth, and then the bullying started, right? And then they said, well, we're going to primary you in Iowa, and the MAGA forces came out in earnest against Ernst. The fact that this is happening right now, tell us how typical that is or how atypical it is. I mean, I know that there are political repercussions for a lot of what goes on in Washington. It's the capital of politics. I don't think there's an apology necessary for it, but this kind of threatening that we're seeing now, and that Chris Wray felt, and I, like you, think that Chris Wray should have stayed on and let himself be fired so that everyone in the world could see what was going on more clearly. But what do you make of that, and how can that be navigated now?
I think Trump told Bob Woodward, and I think I don't know if it was in the book War or another one of his books on Trump, but he told him that fear was the major tool that should be used and can be used to get support. And he's big on fear. And that's what he did with Joni Ernst. He said, we'll come after you in a primary. And of course, now you don't just have the 280-pound orange gorilla come after you and endorse your opponent. You've got Elon, and Elon comes with $250 million to give your opponent. So it's a combination of the world's richest man funding your opponent, and right now, I guess, the most popular politician in America, although not by much. There's only 0.5%, and Kamala Harris would have been president.
Yeah.
Well, would have been president if we had a better world and popular election.
Yeah, exactly. If we didn't have the Electoral College. So there were a few hurdles there, but you're right.
The Electoral College is the only college that Donald Trump's ever let his grades be shown.
Have you been workshopping that in the clubs around Memphis? Is that I like?
No, that just happened. I mean, they just come to me.
I like it a lot. And we were talking about Clown College just now too. So maybe all of it fits together in some way. Congressman, one of the other things that we've been talking about on the show a little bit is the fact that in your body, in the U.S. Congress now, we're seeing a change in committee ranking membership now, so that people who were in line to become the ranking member, which I should explain to the audience, and when you're in the minority, it is the highest ranking person on a committee from the minority party is called the ranking member, and the other person is the chairman or the chairwoman. So we're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. How good is that? A lot of people seem excited about it.
Well, I think it's good. I think this would be my 19th year, and it takes a long time to get in a position to where you can be a chairman. I'm still not in a position to where I can be a chairman of a full committee. I've been chairman of subcommittees in the past, but when you have to be there as long as I've been and still not really be kind of geared toward being a chairman because of the seniority system, that's not good, and it doesn't keep a lot of people staying there. That's why a lot of people retire. The Republicans have a limit. They've had some waivers this year, but they have limits on how long you can be a chairman, and it gives more people the opportunity to participate. In this case, what's happened in Washington, Jerry Nadler has been a longtime leader of the Judiciary Committee and a member of the Judiciary Committee for a long time, and the leader for maybe 6 years or 8 years or whatever. He assumed the chairmanship after Mr. Conyers left. And, Jerry had Jamie Raskin as a potential adversary. People look at the Judiciary Committee as being where the battles and going to be fought to give notice that democracy is at risk with this autocratic administration. And then it'll be a judiciary, not an oversight. Oversight looks at the administration and oversees what they're doing. And of course, the Republican chair, Comer, will not have a lot to oversee and criticize. And there's not that much the minority can do. They can do some things, but not much. Right. So Jamie's a wonderkind. He's a star. He's a very smart guy, college professor, very talented. And it was felt by some of the people in leadership that we needed our top person in that position. And he was able to secure enough votes to where Mr. Nadler withdrew. Now, in the other situations, Raul Grijalva, a wonderful man, a good liberal, good on the environment, and been chairman of the Environment and Committee, Natural Resources. He's been challenged by Jared Huffman and Congressperson from New Mexico, Ms. Stansbury, Melanie Stansbury. So they're challenging him, and he's had he's had a very bad cancer situation. I think it's lung cancer. He looked terrible when he came back. He missed a lot of session. He's lost a lot of weight, and he's got serious. So that's not so much the seniority system as it is health. And can he continue in that capacity? It was felt that he couldn't do that. And the same thing goes for David Scott, who's the chairman of Agriculture, who's a wonderful gentleman. And he's been very sick for a long time and has trouble getting around. And I've asked some people, they say it's pretty much staff driven because he's not capable of doing what he needs to as chairman. And so Jim Costa, an active member from Fresno, the agriculture capital of the world, or the garlic capital at least.
No, garlic is in Gilroy. Fresno is America's breadbasket, right?
Okay. Well, it's close. And so he's challenging him, and I think there's another person challenging as well. But and it may be Melanie. Melanie's looking at natural resources, and I think Grijalva asked her to do that, and he was upset. Jared Huffman came after him early on before he decided to give it up. But it's the Agriculture Committee, and there's Angie Craig is the other person looking at that. But I think Costa's going to have the votes, and that's not necessarily seniority. Again, it's health. So I think it's good to have turnover. It's good to have other people have an opportunity. But these situations, with the exception of Nadler, who is older, it's been health. And with Jerry, it's simply that Jamie Raskin, such an outstanding member.
Yeah. It's great that he's the one who's healthy now too, after all he's been through. And so we're talking about the health of some of the other members of Congress, and it's Jamie Raskin. Right. Whose health we're not talking about, which is also a nice thing. Congressman, I know that it happens across the hall, the confirmations of some of these Trump appointees, but I want to ask you about Robert Kennedy Jr. in particular, because you are somebody who admired his father and certainly his uncle, and I know that it inspired your political career. Jack Kennedy did, in many ways, and I also know that you were someone who, as a young person, suffered from polio, and as someone who's gotten older has also had to endure the ills of post polio, and then you have somebody like Bobby Kennedy Jr. talking about vaccines in the way he does, talking about changing the way we water fluoridation, all of that. What do you think when you hear that? And do you think there's any optimism, people you speak to up there, that he might not get confirmed?
Well, you're right about my Kennedy background and the love I've had for the Kennedys. And in 1980, I supported Ted Kennedy. He was a delegate for him. And Bobby came to Memphis, and I got to know him, and we campaigned pretty active and action-filled 24 hours. and got to like Bobby.
Yeah.
I've only seen him a few times since. He's always been very nice and pleasant and reached out. And I consider him a friend. And I've got other friends in the Kennedy family. But I have to cringe at what his attitude is about vaccinations. He called me one time and asked me, he was trying to get a hearing, which a member can request a hearing, a room for hearing, even though not a chairman or a ranking member. He was looking for a hearing on vaccinations, and it was a tough decision. But I called him. I said, Bobby, you know how much I think of your family. But having had polio and the Salk vaccine would have prevented me from having it. And it was there in my house. In fact, the Salk vaccine was in my house, and my father did not give me the shot for me. In fact, it wasn't in his protocol. He was giving shots to second graders, testing the Salk vaccine out in the spring of '54, and in the fall of '54, I got polio. I said, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I was just reading a story about one of his very close supporters. It starts with an S. I think it says Siri, but I'm not positive what his name is. He's a lawyer who's made a lot of money out of fighting vaccines and fighting science. And he suggested that polio should come off the list of vaccines that is given to people. And I think he backpedaled a little bit. He said he thinks there should be a test run with placebos and the polio vaccine and see how they come out to make sure the polio vaccine, in fact, is effective, which would deny some children the polio vaccine. And unfortunately, while it's been wiped out almost everywhere because of the work of the Gates Foundation and the Rotary Clubs International, there's still some polio in Africa and a country or two, and in Pakistan and or Afghanistan. And there was a case in New York not too long ago, just one case. It could come roaring back. But the vaccine is important. But for my father deciding that it was not within his protocol to give me the shot, I wouldn't have had polio. And Bobby Kennedy didn't have to go through that because he was younger than me. And he didn't go through the period that was a scourge in America and a fear of parents and of children getting polio, which ended at about 55 when the Salk vaccine had been tested in 54 and became available to everybody in 55. And Bobby Kennedy, I'm sure, got the shot. Bobby Kennedy didn't have polio. And Bobby Kennedy didn't have friends getting polio because of the vaccine. And to consider eliminating polio and other vaccines, I think is irresponsible. And you need somebody in charge of the Health and Human Services who is a physician, a scientist, someone with a background and respects history, respects science, and knows science. Bobby'd be good doing some kind of environmental work. Bobby'd be good doing being the advisor on grocery store products, but not on health care.
Grocery store products, which the incoming president says, well, he may be able to bring the prices down anymore. He said that's all he talked about for years, and now he's saying, well, not so fast.
And they say that it was all about the price of eggs, and yet a lot of those people allegedly concerned about the price of eggs were buying $75 Bibles and $250 Trump tennis shoes and paying money for all kind of Trump things. And Melania, God knows what they'll be selling things from her for.
Right. Well, she's not going to be around the White House, it seems, very much. So she's going to be able to do whatever she wants.
Her book is number one. Is that amazing? Her book is number one bestseller. And you look at the authors that are 2, 3, and 4. Whew.
Well, I mean, I can't wait till her next book. If this one is doing so well and is so great and so well received, you know how that happens with so many people buying so many of the books. And you bring up something really great. I've been on the road, as you know, for a very long time covering the MAGA crowd, and there are. Just to paint the picture, when you go to one of his rallies, and I always say that many of the people are there for the tailgate, not for the game. They come to be outside and mingling with each other. And there are invariably between 20 and 50 stands selling Trump merchandise. And the people, like you just said, shelling out money for anything and everything. And then you stand with them and they say, I can't afford to go to the market anymore, right? But
and you saw what he just did, which was really revolting. Joe Biden was nice enough to shake his hand at the rededication of the Notre Dame Cathedral, and he used that picture that was taken in an ad for his fragrances and said even enemies can't resist the fragrance of fight, fight, fight cologne. What a jackass.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to find a lot of disagreement in this audience, Congressman. So before we let you go, it's the holiday season. We talk a lot about dark things coming with the Trump administration, all these nominees, people are pretty down. The ratings on traditionally progressive networks are down. People just are sticking their heads in the sand. They will take them out of the sand as
some people are sticking their heads in the sand, but then there was a difference on Mika and Scarborough. They went and they stuck their heads somewhere else.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. You got me on that one. Well done. Give this audience of the Mark Thompson Show, for which I am guest hosting this week, give them something about which to be optimistic. Is there as you go back to Washington for the beginning of next year, what's something that they can be optimistic about, that we can be optimistic about?
Well, they can be optimistic that a lot of what Trump says he'll do, he won't do. He said he would build a wall and Mexico would pay for it. And that didn't happen. And a lot of things he said he would do haven't occurred. So now he's already admitting he can't do much about grocery prices. That's a good thing, is a lot of it's bluster and BS to get elected, and just he doesn't know the truth. So that's somewhat better. And a lot of it's just going to be, I guess the real good news is that there will be an election in 2028.
Right.
And we just got to hold our noses and put our hands over our eyes to some extent, although we need to be awakened and observant and critical and bringing attention as Congress people, attention on the issues to what's happening. But it's dreadful. And whether it's Trump in 28 or whether it's Vance running for re-election, because I'm not sure that Trump is going to make it to 2020. He's morbidly obese and does not take care of himself. And when he plays golf, I don't think he carries his clubs, and I don't think he walks in this hot, fast pace.
Okay. Well, we will take that he will not be able to follow through, and then I guess the Judiciary Committee will be one of those committees, the one on which you serve, that is going to be holding his administration to the fire at every turn. Is that safe to say?
Jamie will do a great job, and then we're going to have to pick a new chairman of government oversight, or ranking member. And I think that AOC is a candidate, but I think Jerry Connolly is going to end up winning. He's well liked and been a while. He's got cancer too. A lot of disease going around among older Congress people. And but I think Jerry's going to get it. Nancy Pelosi apparently was helping him and making calls. She did not call me. She fell in Europe.
In Luxembourg. Yeah. Have you heard how she's doing? She's in Luxembourg. Is she doing okay?
Well, all I know is she fell, and it said it was a hard fall on marble steps. I don't want to take any hard falls on marble steps.
Yeah, no.
So I imagine she very well bruised well, and she could have broken a bone. Who knows? And she certainly could have had some other injuries to her hands, wrists, trying to stop the fall. I certainly am not going to wear 4-inch heels when I walk down those stairs.
I was going to say, you spend enough time on marble steps that I don't see you putting on heels. We had somebody in the chat had asked me to ask a question to the congressman about the FDIC. Does Musk want to get rid of the FDIC? Is that something you've heard?
He goes right to it. Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what Musk wants to do. Musk wants to do whatever's good for Musk.
Yeah, and
he's an interesting character. I'm reading the book about that Isaacson wrote, and Isaacson wasn't very complimentary of me. He spoke to us at a Rubenstein sponsored program at the Library of Congress. He's a very strange individual, and he's doing a lot of good for Memphis, and that's good. So I guess I should hold my tongue to some extent.
Yeah, why don't you do that so you don't get primary? Well, you wouldn't get primary, but
they can primary me. I'm safe.
I know that you get primaried all the time. I don't think you're going to get a Musk primary opponent, is what I mean. All right, Congressman Steve Cohen, we really thank you for taking time out on a Friday. Wish you happy holidays. Good Friday the 13th. Stay off the marble steps and the high heels. And thanks for joining the Mark Thompson Show today.
Michael, it's sure been good to be with you.
All right, you did it. Congressman Steve Cohen, it was great having him on the show. I don't know if maybe once in a while you get you get congresspeople and electeds on here, but it's always good to hear from them because we talk about them so much, and you get the real scoop, and he's an honest broker about what's going on there, and
he's great.
Yeah, and he's funny too, and I think funny goes a long way. I always do. We have now. Can we just do some housekeeping here, Kim? Because I'm not up.
Absolutely.
We have at 12:40. We have our next guest, something like that, and then we have a little time to chit chat now.
I think we have Jennifer next.
Yeah, she's waiting in the wings,
and she's here. So why don't we bring Jennifer in, and then we can have a little time between Jennifer and our next guest. Oh yeah, it was 12:20. I see. Yeah. See? All right. Right. Okay. Well, let's bring Jennifer Calieres in. This is going to be a treat, listeners and viewers. It's kind of Christmassy, but it isn't. Jennifer Calieres has a book called has a podcast called Books Are My People, where she interviews authors, and she shares news that she calls book news about what's going on in the book world. She will talk to you and raise up the independent booksellers of our country we spoke about yesterday. And she's going to give us a little bit of book news, some that's disconcerting, some that's concerning. And she's going to give us 3 books into the holiday season that we can either gift or read. It is the host of Books Are My People, Jennifer Calieres. Thanks for being on the Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. From a congressman to me, what a letdown.
Yeah, well, to a lot of people, that's a let up. So, and you know, the book background really it works. And so we thank you for being on the show. I want to, you know, books are, as you know, something that have created a little bit of controversy recently in that the way these bestseller lists are created. We just heard Congressman Cohen saying that Melania Trump's book is #1 on the bestseller list. I'm guessing it's not in the 3 books you're going to share with us today.
It is not.
Okay.
It is not on any list. Well, it could be on a list, but it's a naughty list, not a nice list.
Well, by the way, Blue Shine Art, I don't know, they say we love Jennifer's podcast. So already in the comments section, people who know your podcast are in here. So again, the podcast, tell people it's Books Are My People. Tell us a little bit about it and
Sure. So it's podcast for book lovers with book news recommendations and ruminations on living a literary life in Los Angeles, which you actually can do here in LA. And I have on a multitude of guests ranging from booksellers, librarians, publishers, editors, audiobook narrators, and of course, authors. And they recommend some of their favorite books, as do I. And I also have a companion Substack called Books Are My People, where I send out a weekly newsletter, always on a Tuesday, which for people not in the book world, that is new book release day. And I highlight the books that I'm excited to read. And I also have an option for an online book club where we read a book once a month and then meet over Zoom to discuss it.
That's great. So someone, one of the people in the chat said, have her take a random book off her shelf and do a book report. We're not going to ask her to do that. But here you see things from Books Are My People. Let's go to some bookish news, because I think, and now somebody here also saying great Substack, Jen. So you're there. This is a known entity to the Mark Thompson Show audience. So I always tell people they should be buying their books from independent bookstores. We heard that James Patterson, the author, the mystery author, is giving $500 to, what was it, Kim? Was it 30,000 booksellers or 3,500? Whatever it was, 500 independent bookstores around the country, just sending money to them because we need to lift them up. And I tell people to go to bookshop.org if they are buying from their living room, rather than they give money to the person who just gave $1 million to the Trump inaugural committee. That's my way of saying it without saying it. Tell us what's going on in book selling. I know that there's a Costco news nugget, which I think is both good and bad, but I think you're going to think it's more bad, but let's hear.
There is. So I think the first breaking news is that I've heard that people are encouraged to plug their mugs on your show. So I just am holding up my Books Are My People mug here. Dang.
That's good. Like
Breaking
the mug,
news.
you can
Thank
buy the merch. By the way, mugs, as everyone has known all week, a soft spot or a sensitive spot for me because I haven't gotten my Mark Thompson show mug yet. But I thought I wasn't going to mention it today, but that's enough.
Sorry. Well, back to the Costco news. So yeah, Costco, which has around 600 stores, has decided that it is going to stop selling books at 500 of them. And this is pretty disappointing. I don't get my books at Costco. I have gotten a book or two at Costco. Typically, I get my books from my independent bookseller. But I think the issue there is, well, clearly, I think the books weren't selling, or else they would keep selling them. And I think at Costco, they use forklifts to move everything around on pallets, and the books are stacked individually in nice rows. And I think it was just too much manual labor to make it worth their while. So my hope is that the people who were buying those books at Costco buy them from bookshop.org or their independent bookseller, and not the alternative, who is responsible for selling 50% of the books sold in the United States. So there you go.
And I think that's the encouraging part, is that if it just means more books are going to be sold by people who should be selling books. And I'm not saying that everybody is evil who isn't an independent bookstore, but I do like supporting them and always have. And so I think to that end, that's good news. Let's get to the books. Let's talk about about 3 books. I've asked you to select 3 books that you can talk to our audience about, but also I think there are 2 fiction and 1 nonfiction. Is that the way we went?
Correct. I'm going to start with the nonfiction.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay, so my first pick is Silk, A World History by Arati Prasad. And Prasad is a bioarchaeologist, which I find so interesting. And the book is what it sounds like. It's a look at silk and the cultures for whom silk was central. This practice of cultivating silkworms began as early as 3000 BC. And of course, we know it spread far and wide. It's the strongest natural fiber. We know that silkworms are not the only spinners, right? You have spiders, but did you know, Michael, that mollusks also spin?
No, I didn't. Of course I didn't. Nobody knows. I haven't read the book.
The book explores silk's impact throughout civilizations up through today. And I'm a real fan of any nonfiction book that does a deep dive into one very specific topic. I love books by Mary Roach, for example, whose book Stiff focuses on human cadavers and Gulp focuses on the alimentary canal. And I've even read and loved a book this year called Pockets, An Intimate History of How We Keep Things Close by Hannah Carlson, who was a guest on my show. So if you enjoy books that are micro-focused, I think you'll enjoy this book.
I read a book called Salt, which was about the history of the salt trade. So I think those things are fascinating and what got us there. So I love that kind of nonfiction, because we take so many things for granted. We see them and then we don't know, we don't think about them. And why should we? But when you do think about them, when you read about them, gives you a totally different appreciation. I swear to you, whenever there is salt on the table or I add salt to a dish, whatever it is, I think about the Salt book. So maybe it's a burden. Maybe if you wear a lot of silk, you don't want to have to think about it all the time. But it was a really fascinating. I guess these are like microbiographies of the minutia in our life, and it's pretty cool. Let's go to the world of fiction, which I know is a big focus of your podcast and your Substack. But tell me about a little bit. And now these are books that people can buy for themselves, but they also make good gifts. So let's hear.
Absolutely. And all the books that I've talked about today are listed on my bookshop.org shop called Books Are My People. So you can easily find them there. So for some reason, this was the year of Irish literature for me. I read Patrick Radden Keane's Say Nothing, which is now a TV series. I read Colm Toibin's Long Island, which is about an Irish immigrant family. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, about 2 brothers, a chess player and a lawyer. And see what I did there? I snuck in a couple of extra books for you. But the book that I'm going to talk about is The Alternatives, which is about 4 sisters. Sorry.
No, I was saying we're making Christmas lists here, but yes, keep going. 4 sisters.
It's about 4 Irish sisters who passed away when they were young. The sisters each hold a PhD, one in philosophy, one in political science, one in geology, and the other is a food influencer who has an honorary degree. And the eldest sister goes missing, and they all have to come together. It's not a suspense novel. She's quickly located, but it pulls the curtain back on their relationships, their differing ideologies. It's also a novel that covers a lot of ground. It covers climate change, mental illness, alcoholism. It's dazzling. And the concept of alternatives is just thoroughly mined throughout the whole book, including structurally, which I found really interesting. Partway through the book, it reverts to a play-like structure, maybe a nod to Beckett. In any case, if you're a fan of the TV show Bad Sisters, then perhaps Queelan Hughes's The Alternative is for you.
Queelan,
Queelan spelled, yes, Caoilinn.
Queelan.
And I will not try and say it with an Irish accent, although you can.
So, someone in the chat asked how you choose the books that you put on your podcast and on your Substack. How does that happen?
Sure. So it's just what I love, what I'm reading and what I'm loving. That's it. There's no rhyme or reason. I do get a lot of free books in the mail, but getting them free does not mean they will go on the show at all. So I just try and read widely. I think the average reader reads 12 books a year. I'm at 128 for this year, and I imagine that number will go up in the next 2 weeks.
Somebody in the chat room saying they just donated to their local library in their parents' name, which is fantastic. Someone said,
wonderful. Thank you.
Saying library volunteers are on my list with nurses and teachers. So there is that. The Mark Thompson books are my people, and that. Oh, that's look at that, everybody. This is your store on bookshop.org. I think that we're in there. So let's do one more book before we let you go and move on with the end of my week on the show. And what's the next book, Jennifer?
Okay, so this is one that probably more people have heard of than not, and this is James by Percival Everett. This is the most recent winner of the National Book Award. Everett is the author of, I believe, 24 novels, maybe more. It's a brilliant retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the enslaved Jim or James's point of view. And it retains all of the harrowing plot points down the Mississippi, but by shifting the lens from a young white to an enslaved Black man, the story takes on a very different shape. And for a novel that carries so much heft, Everett does his wonderfully Everett thing and is able to deftly add moments of humor while using this story from America's past to comment on America today. And a fun fact, Everett is married to author Danzy Senna, who recently released a satire titled Colored Television, which I also read, and it's also great. So again, that's James by Percival Everett.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, that sounds like a really, really cool book and a good idea. And not only does it sound fantastic, it won the National Book Prize, damn it. So
what more do you need?
Yeah, you don't need a whole lot much more than that. Jennifer, I hope that people go to your podcast because of the Mark Thompson show. I've learned this week and I've known from Mark are a very erudite and bright and curious above all bunch. And so I wanted to steer them toward the work that you do, because we all, at this time of year, people should be reading and giving books as gifts anyway. So thanks for stopping by. I will say it again. It's Books Are My People. And you can go to their store on bookshop.org. And you can also read and listen to Jennifer and admire her bookshelf.
Thank you so much. I did want to say the Oxford English Dictionary's word of the year is brain rot. And the best way to fight brain rot is by reading.
Oh, okay. Did everybody hear that? Oxford Dictionary's word of the year, brain rot. Fight brain rot.
2 words, but I won't go into that controversy.
Well, I mean, but is it brain rot or is it brain rot?
2 words. 2 words.
Oh, it
brain
is.
Rot.
Okay. We have to cut that. I'm not going to allow the word of the year to be 2 words. Just not going to happen. It's not the Mark Thompson show. It's the Mark Thompson show. Okay, guys. Thank you, Jennifer, so much.
Thank you.
It was happy reading, and we'll all be checking out your podcast. When we come back, we will be with Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. This is the culture portion of the end of the week here on the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Gator just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
A Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No, no, no.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing here?
Do you have a secret talent?
Isn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective, how about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
All right. Yeah, the Mark Thompson Show band playing us in. The Mark Thompson Show Holiday Meetup, Saturday, December 21st, 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Sign up at our PayPal. It's a $50 donation to the show. It locks up a spot. It'll be a lot of fun. Just RSVP and say it's the RSVP to mtsmmeetup@gmail.com. And it will be a lot of fun. I will look forward to being here for that. Mark will be here. Kim, Albert, I'm sure all of the characters of the Mark Thompson Show will be there. Am I right, Kim?
Yeah, I think Kim will be there.
Okay,
I'll be
Kim
here.
will be. Okay.
John Rothman will be here. We have responding.
Courtney's going to be here.
Courtney's going to be here. Of course, that other guy, Mark Thompson, he'll be around. But a lot of people are saying that they will stop through and spend time. And these events are so much fun because you get to hang out, say things that you wouldn't necessarily say on an official show. It's more like just this conversation, and you get to see the people from the chat that you get to know. So it's really fun. It's really fun. And I recommend it. It's a great fundraiser for the show and a nice time to spend time together.
I thank you all for your kindness in the chat about this week. Luis says, this sure has been a great week. Always enjoy a pun about my last name. I've had it forever. And then Ren0287, $10 in the super chat. Thank you for a great week. Michael, Kim, Albert, and Tony. I really enjoyed having Jennifer Calieres on. I like a little culture. She reads so much; it's remarkable, and thank you for indulging that, because I think we could all use a little more read and a little less scroll, if you know what I mean. Cynthia Schwartz with a $20 in the super chat. Super sticker. I don't know what you do with that, but super sticker.
There you go.
Okay, that's all I did. But thank you again. So we have our next segment coming up with the Culture Blaster. Can we have 47 seconds though for sports? Can we fit that in here?
Yeah, and we can possibly invite Michael Snyder, because he is a sports guy too.
Let's have Michael Snyder come on for the 47 seconds of sports and talk about. I want to talk about couple of things that happened yesterday. First of all, I'm going to open with hockey because I do, even though the 49ers game should be what I'm opening with. The Sharks went into St. Louis celebrating, scored 2 more goals. How about that, Albert?
It's great. And Macklin Celebrini, if you all don't know, he's probably going to be the next big superstar, which is great. And we've never had that in San Jose. So very happy about that because he's good 200-foot player. Offense and defense is something you can enjoy to watch from his games. Usually you see these guys just score goals, but you see it the whole complete game at 18 years old. It's
9 years old, too, which is unbelievable. All right, so we're going to skip because we only have 47 seconds, and there are still people complaining that that's too long, but some people say they like it. So the 49ers, a disaster, season over, dropping balls, Debo complaining. Michael Snyder, you're a 49ers fan. Devondre Campbell walking off the field in the middle of the game. What do we think? Gone?
That was appalling. Campbell hasn't been what we would call sterling this season, but oh my God, quitting on your team in the middle of the most crucial game of the season, that is unforgivable. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's cut. And it may have already happened. I don't know. I haven't checked socials.
I've been checking sort of before the show. I was checking. It didn't happen certainly first thing in the morning. By the way, their other linebackers are hurt. They may need the guy, but I agree with you. It was a crazy turn of events. Also, the Niners lost a disastrous game, and that is probably, I mean, without exception, well, with some exception, but it's going to be the end of their season. I would imagine. See, so Trevor, who's complaining that there's too much sports, we're done with sports now, and we're going to go right into talking with Michael Snyder about what he always talks about. But so it went over 47 seconds by like 11 seconds. Lighten up.
Hey, Albert, do you have a rainbow that I can come in on?
I do. So we could get right into it.
Yeah, that's what I was
Ooh, that felt good. Hi, it's Michael Snyder, you guys, and happy to be here with Michael Schur and Kim and Albert. It's Friday the 13th, and going by the state of the nation and the world and the nightmare of the incoming administration, I have one question. Who broke all the mirrors? Somebody is responsible for this. I don't know who, though. In any event, thank you. No applause. Your fake applause is accepted, but, not necessary. So what do you say, Michael? You want to learn about what's new in the movies?
I would love to learn about what's new in the movies. I've been excited all week to be able to intro your segment because I'm already off the air by the time you come on. So this is great. Let's tell me about what movies to see and what you think of them.
Well, also what movies to avoid. So buckle up. Kraven the Hunter is the movie we're going to lead with because it's the big blockbustery open that we're going to be confronting today. It's the latest and hopefully the final live action attempt by Sony Pictures to monetize the studio's deal with Marvel Comics. It's been in place for a number of years and they're unwilling to give up the deal because it gives them the rights to Spider-Man and Spider-Man adjacent characters like Kraven. And this movie is a mess. Previously, and apart from 3 different big screen iterations of Spidey, and the last of which is connected to Marvel's expansive and wildly successful cinematic universe, Sony has produced movies with Spider-Man villains / anti-heroes, Venom, and Morbius, and sometime ally Madam Web, that have ranged from dull to mildly amusing and to outright laughable. With Kraven the Hunter, director J.C. Chandor, who has made some decent low-budget films, and 3 screenwriters who shall go unnamed for their own benefit, take another Spider-Man adversary, the Russian-born jungle-wise tracker of beasts and men, Sergei Kravenov, played by former Marvel Universe Quicksilver Aaron Taylor Johnson, who, by the way, is also a purported finalist for the new James Bond. And they trap this guy in a muddled origin story that is triggered by the abusive behavior of his wealthy gangster father, Nikolai. So this bastard is a cruel drug lord and big game hunter, played with a thick and weird accent by Russell Crowe, who also plays the Greek god Zeus in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know, the double duty these guys are doing is just astonishing. Anyway, Nikolai apparently enjoys humiliating the athletic son Sergei and his more frail, artsy little brother Dmitri. And after a hunting accident almost kills Sergei, he's saved by a magical potion that enhances his physical prowess and seems to give him the ability to communicate with animals, kind of like a landlocked Aquaman. You know what I'm saying? So Sergei abandons his family.
Man, by the way.
Yeah. Sergei abandons his. I'm sorry?
No, then he would just be man.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Or landman. I don't know. Never mind. Yeah. Sergei abandons his family to go on the hunt, eventually coming into conflict with one of his father's enemies, played by Alessandro Nivola, which embroils Sergei in dad and little bro's lives again. It's all rather muddled and clumsy, with plenty of outlandish and half-ass fights and questionable CGI animals. I had enough of them, I think, in Gladiator 2. I didn't need more of them in Kraven the Hunter. So Sony uses their deal with Marvel to also waste a couple other Spider-Man villains in the process, including a new iteration of the Rhino, as well as the Foreigner, who was played by Christopher Abbott. And get this, Oscar winner Ariana DeBose is also caught in this as one of Kraven's allies, and Spider-Man is nowhere to be seen. So the weird thing is that Sony has made two amazing award-worthy animated movies featuring a version of Spider-Man, and also made the recent Marvel-assisted Spidey films with Tom Holland as the hero, and they've been great. They just need to quit it with the live-action spin-offs. If you care, this is in theaters.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I care after that.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
But I have something of value to talk about now. How's that?
Well, let's hear it.
Nickel Boys is a wrenching drama adapted from Colson Whitehead's novel that was inspired by some of the horrifying circumstances that occurred at a notorious Florida reformatory, the Dozier School for Boys, where students were purportedly beaten and sexually abused. Yikes. So in Nickel Boys, it's 1962, and a bright, young, motivated African-American teen, Elwood Curtis, is getting ready to attend college until an incident on the highway results in this innocent, well-meaning kid getting ramrodded by racist cops and subsequently sentenced to the internally segregated Nickel Academy Reform School, where, of course, the white students enjoy preferential treatment over the black students. There, Elwood, played by Ethan Harris, befriends streetwise black inmate Turner, played by Brandon Wilson. These two young actors, I hadn't seen their work before, and they're really wonderful here. And Elwood and Turner try to survive the racism and all-around oppression of the schoolmasters and the white students, even as the civil rights movement is on the rise. So the narrative structure here unexpectedly shifts from the struggles faced by Elwood and Turner to a more contemporary setting, wherein a writer is attempting to produce an account of those harrowing times that occurred at Nickel Academy. And that stuff is occasionally interspersed with the, I'll call them stentorian words of the Reverend Martin Luther King. So the ploy works by giving the awful events at the Reform School and the general treatment of African Americans in the Jim Crow South historical context. I mean, the cast is superb, with Oakland's own Daveed Diggs of Hamilton and Snowpiercer in a pivotal role, plus impressive turns by Onjenu Ellis-Taylor, Hamish Linkletter, and Fred Hetchinger, who, by the way, actually plays Kraven the Hunter's brother in that Marvel misfire. So, you know, Fred gets some decent project to work in after, I guess, going for the bucks in Kraven the Hunter. So Nickel Boys was directed by Ramel Ross, who also co-authored the screenplay. He previously directed the very powerful documentary Hale County, dealing with African-American life in contemporary Alabama, but he's done equally impressive work with the drama of Nickel Boys, and I'm really excited to see what he does next. Nickel Boys is in select theaters and should get some awards love as the Oscar season ramps up. I imagine Nickel Boys is going to get many kudos beyond what I'm giving them right now. All right, so I saw a movie called The Last Showgirl. And, I didn't expect much, but it turned out to be a delightful surprise. It is a sweet and poignant look at the life of Shelley, an aging Las Vegas dancer, in a titillating long-running review called Le Razzle Dazzle, which is ending after a 3-decade run that featured her as the glamorous face of the show. And now she has to figure out what her life is going to be after losing the gig that defined her for so long. Plus, she needs to finally address her relationship with her estranged college-age daughter. Now, here's the amazing thing. Playing Shelley in completely vanity-free style is Pamela Anderson.
What?
Giving the performance of her checkered career as the 50-something Shelley. One of the most telling aspects of The Last Showgirl, which, by the way, is directed by Gia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's granddaughter, from Kate Gerson's very measured, unfussy script, is how it reflects Anderson's own story. I mean, from Baywatch babe and sex symbol to tabloid fodder for her sex tape with Tommy Lee to seeming irrelevance. And now Anderson, who is still a striking woman, may be having the last laugh with her embodiment of Shelley. She's beautifully supported by her fellow actors, Kiernan Shipka and Brenda Song, as considerably younger dancers in the troupe. Billy Lord, another Nepo baby. It's Carrie Fisher's daughter in real life. Billy Lord plays Shelley's daughter. Tough guy Dave Bautista in a surprisingly sensitive portrayal as the revue's stage manager, who has history with Shelley. And the awesome Jamie Lee Curtis as an older ex-dancer turned cocktail waitress who's hanging on as best as she can while dealing with a gambling addiction, which seems like a bit of an issue when you're working in Vegas. But ultimately, this is Anderson's showcase, and she responds like the trooper she's playing in gutsy, heartbreaking fashion. Here's hoping The Last Showgirl is a harbinger of more roles that give her a chance to show her depth. And let's see more from Gia Coppola. I mean, a legacy filmmaker who appears to have similar skills as her Aunt Sophia. And you know what? The Last Showgirl is a better movie than Grandpa's recent Megalopolis. The Last Showgirl is in select theaters. I think, like Nickel Boys, it's going to play well when it goes to streaming. But, I was impressed with it, and impressed beyond a doubt with Pamela Anderson's performance. Speaking of women coping with aging, the accomplished Chilean filmmaker Pablo Larraín, who made the politically charged thriller No, as well as the biopic Neruda about Pablo Neruda, the politician and Nobel-winning poet, and Jackie about Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, has directed Maria, which is about the final days of the great opera singer, some say the greatest, Maria Callas, who incidentally competed with Jackie for the affections of the super wealthy magnate Aristotle Onassis. So Callas is depicted in retirement here, living in Paris and wrestling with fading vocal prowess and mental, physical, and emotional distress while being attended to by her butler and housemaid, all of which has her on Mandrax and other drugs. So Lorraine seriously benefits from a bravura performance by Angelina Jolie as Callas. The accomplished Jolie is, to put it simply, exquisite. But the narrative stutters a little bit as she participates in an ongoing dialogue with what appears to be an imaginary interviewer, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, and reflects on her life with copious flashbacks. There's a lot of opera music, and though I'm not a fan, I did marvel at the vocal skills of Callas, which were, goose flesh inducing, hair raising, and Jolie's star power and nuanced performance, draw you in. Even with the strange faux interview technique, I think it's a worthy movie, just, not the levels of greatness I've expected from Lorraine. Anyway, Maria is in theaters and as of today on Netflix, so you can just watch it at home. Maria, I give it a pretty much a thumbs up. Quickly, I want to talk about a rather compelling behind-the-scenes look at the first terrorist attack covered on global television. That would be the 1972 Munich Olympics, I guess you'd call it, hostage situation with the Israeli Olympic team. This movie is called September 5, and it's showing what went down from the point of view of the ABC sports broadcasting crew that ended up inadvertently covering the shocking news of this hostage situation. And it's pretty fascinating stuff, and it's short and to the point. This movie's like, 90 minutes or so, directed by Tim Fellbaum, I believe a German director, and starring the likes of Peter Sarsgaard as Rune Arledge. You know the name. He's the famous ABC sports maven, and also John Magaro as one of his associates, and various and other actors playing significant roles in the ABC News and sports team. And you get the use of archival footage of Jim McKay and other, ABC luminaries. There's some voice audio from Howard Cosell, and they tell the story in a very thrilling fashion, largely from the control room, and there are some exteriors as well. And I was pretty impressed with September 5, and I do recommend it. If I'm not mistaken, it is in limited release right now, and again, it's going to be pretty good for streaming at home once it gets to that point. September 5. Quickly, I want to mention a neo-noir, terrific neo-noir two-hander called Lake George, featuring the usual sterling performances from Shea Whigham as a guy who is in debt to the mob and is compelled to kill one of the mobsters who hold him in thrall, not to kill him, but to kill the mobster's girlfriend, Phyllis, played by Carrie Coon, who was so good in The Gilded Age and was the mom in the recent Ghostbusters remix, reboot and rejiggering. And the two of them decide that they're going to actually take all the money from the people who have bossed them around for all this time. I was so thrilled watching Whigham and Carrie Coon playing off one another. This is written and directed by Jeffrey Reiner, no relation to Carl, but a pretty talented screenwriter and director. And if I'm not mistaken, it is streaming now. It is also in theaters. I thought Lake George was a blast. And again, I love neo-noir movies, and this one was in my sweet spot as these two people, at first adversaries, decide to team up and kind of make some serious cash while kind of getting back at the guy who's had them under his thumb for way too long. So I want to just kind of quickly mention how much I appreciated the movie Flow, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be an odds-on favorite at the Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature. From my movie-drenched, animation-loving perspective, Flow is easily the best animated movie of the year, better than things like Inside Out 2 or Moana 2, with much larger budgets. The strange nature of this thing is that it's a simple kiddie on a hero's journey. It's without any dialogue, and it comes from Latvia, and there's just lush visual invention, and it's also a thoughtful take on the need to band together in the face of environmental calamity. This cat is caught up in a flood. I guess there's been an environmental disaster, and while the flood takes the cat on her journey, or his journey, as the cat searches for dry land, it teams up with these other animals. This is the work of Gins Zilbalodis. He's the animator from Latvia. It's gorgeous. It just blew me away. I was riveted to the screen. So smart, so creative, and so beautifully done. High marks all across the board for Flow. I totally, for families, for cartoon lovers, whoever. I thought it was fantastic.
Wow, that's ringing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's about it on the movie front. Are you watching anything that appealed to you?
Well, here's what I got for you, Michael, is that people in the chat room are, and teacher Lori G says there's a good new show on Netflix called No Good Deed. It's an amazing cast with Lisa Kudrow, Ray Romano, Luke Wilson, Lisa Cardellini, Dennis Leary, et cetera, Linda Lavin. Linda Lavin, really? I didn't know Linda Lavin was still alive, but I'm glad to know she is.
She's actually friends with one of my buddies, Heather, honestly.
Oh, wow. All right.
Linda Lavin, was she Alice?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, okay.
Whose sidekick at the restaurant's name was, and now we're full Flo. Here we go.
That's right. Not to be confused with the Kitty's hero's journey that we just talked about. How many flows can we stand?
Exactly.
I have yet to watch that, Teacher Lori, but I am totally addicted to Silo, which is about life in these underground silos in an environmentally destroyed future world. And it stars Rebecca Ferguson as someone who has rebelled about life in the silo and wants to go out and see if she can find out what's going on the surface. And it's in season 2, and it's had a fantastic first season. And the second one is intriguing, and it's a solid storytelling based on a series of books. And Rebecca Ferguson is pretty wonderful. It's available on Apple TV Plus. That would be Silo. And I am a big fan of espionage movies and television programs. So The Agency on Paramount Plus is really in my sweet spot. It stars the great Michael Fassbender as a CIA agent who is brought in from the cold to the London CIA office, even as all kinds of awful things are happening in theaters of war, such as the Ukraine. And his own life is at risk because of a relationship he built up with a woman at his previous posting. She is played by the wonderful Jodie Turner-Smith. Jeffrey Wright plays one of his handlers at the CIA. Catherine Waterston, an associate at the CIA. And Richard Gere, for all of you fans of that square-jawed charmer, is kind of the boss of the London offices of the CIA. And this show, The Agency, is actually based on Le Bureau, which is a long-running spy show from France, which I also highly recommend if you can deal with, subtitles, if you will.
Yes, I can't. You were asking. This was the one I was going to say. So now I'm out. But this is fantastic. So really, really good to see that. Let's recap here. Nickel Boys, the ones that we like. We're going to say Nickel Boys, The Last Showgirl, the Pam Anderson, not a Showgirl sequel. Maria, if you like opera, if you don't, maybe not, but the performances are good. September 5, which sounds fantastic, about the Israeli Olympic team in 1976 in Munich, 1972 in Munich, sorry. Lake George and Flo, which got huge kudos from Michael Snyder here because it is animation with no sound or no dialogue, and it sounded just absolutely beautiful. So I should add too that in the chat, Nullified Dan said he saw a movie, or she saw a movie last night called The Postmaster's Ruse, aka Going Postal. It was a lot of fun and very well acted. I don't know if you've seen that, Michael, but from the crowd.
I have not seen that, and I will take it under advisement. And really great working with you, and of course the unstoppable Kim. And I always pay very close attention to your segments with Mark on Fridays, and it's really terrific to interact with you as our guest host. And I suppose I'll be seeing you at the Christmas gathering for the Mark Thompson show.
Indeed you will, and thank you for saying such kind things. I really appreciate it. So thank you for being on the show. This is clearly a segment that people love, and Michael was just talking about the Mark Thompson Holiday Show, which is on December 21st. It'll be 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. $50 to lock up a spot. It's a donation. And then when you do that, note that it's for the meetup with your donation, and you can RSVP to mtsmeetup@gmail.com. And I don't think I ever have to say that again, which is exciting. Thank you, Michael, for being on the show. And Of course. And when and the way he talked about it is canned applause. There's a live studio audience. You just can't see it because your cameras.
Right, I appreciate that. And as you can see on the Chiron, you can actually check out my articles at thevoicesf.org, where I think the next one is going to be about the agency and another espionage TV series called Black Doves. But I will be back with our beloved host, Mark Thompson, next Friday. And again, thank you. You and Kim have done yeoman work in his stead. And I'm going to say it, go Niners 2025.
Don't give up yet. They're still there. And also, I've learned that Shanahan has, in fact, that there is no more Devondre Campbell on the 49ers. So as he walked off the field, that's the last time you'll have to see it happening.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I need a rainbow. See you later, guys.
Yes. Michael, we're leaving on the rainbow. Just a note of personal privilege. Thanks to Kim and to Albert and to Tony for all their help this week on and off the air of the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you, Mark, for entrusting me with his gem of a show and sharing his audience. Peter Newton gave $5.50 in super chats, and my mom would have loved it. Today it would have been my parents' 55th anniversary. My dad and I would go to dinner to remember Mom. So nice, and send best wishes to your dad. It's still an anniversary. $1.99 from Luis. 49ers equals MAGA plus Twitter, team dumpster fire. Yeah, a little bit, but sometimes you got to lose also. Quite a move by that 49er last night. He'll never play in the NFL again. Just threw away his career last night. Yeah, I would suspect that you're right, Randy, about that. And thank you to all of you for the kind words, mostly in the chat, and for the support all week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Again, thanks to Steve Cohen today, Congressman from Tennessee, Jennifer Calieris, Michael Snyder. Go to Jennifer's podcast, Book for My People. Have a great holiday season. Have a great weekend. Mark will be back here on Monday, and I will see you.
Bye, Michael Snyder. Bye, Michael Schumer. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.